Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of An Unexpected Fight. I'm so excited for our episode today. We are doing something a little bit different today. We're talking about fundraising, so I'm going to let Kelly take it away with introducing our guest.
All right, so today we'd like to welcome Captain Red Flowers. Captain Red has been a charter boat captain for 45 years. He is also a stage 4 melanoma cancer survivor. He's a husband and a grandfather of 3. His hobbies include fishing, flying as a private pilot, and raising funds for the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation. Recently, Captain Red completed the Great Loop Challenge as a way to fundraise for the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation. For those of you, like me, who did not know what the Great Loop Challenge was, the Great Loop Challenge refers to an adventure of circumnavigating the eastern United States and parts of Canada via a network of interconnected waterways, including rivers, canals, lakes, coastal routes. This route, often referred to simply as the Great Loop, is a bucket list challenge for a lot of boating enthusiasts. It offers a unique opportunity to explore diverse landscapes, historic sites, and a variety of cultures along the way. Captain Red set a new record for the fastest completion of the Great Loop in July of 2024. He completed the approximately 6,500 miles, Captain Red?
Yeah.
6,500 miles of the eastern United States in only 19 days, 19 hours, and 50 minutes. Captain Red undertook this challenge to raise awareness and funds for pediatric cancer research. So that's pretty awesome. I loved following your journey, Captain Red. I followed all of the videos that you posted along the way. It was really a lot of fun. And honestly, as 2 cancer moms, Tiffany and I can both say thank you so much for being involved in the pediatric cancer world and raising funds. We really appreciate having you today.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Glad to be with you too.
Thank you. So let's start off. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to take on the Great Loop Challenge?
Yeah. So 10 years ago, I was diagnosed just out of the blue with stage 4 melanoma. It was a routine exam at a dermatologist. They found a spot, cut it out, and it went downhill from there. You know, life is normal. You go in for a checkup. You feel great. Feel like you can carry the world on your shoulders, and the next minute you're in a cancer battle. And that's exactly what happened with me. And it had got into my lungs, and we'd done a year's worth of chemotherapies and treatments and radiation. And then after that, we were sent home with no other resources. And, you know, that hits a home run right there when you're driving home from the hospital and they've released you with nothing else they can do. So I'm a pretty hard-headed guy. You know, I'm one of them charter captains, and we don't give up. So I got home and wrote a letterhead and got my medical records and drove to all over the country hand delivering them, and ended up at Moffitt in Tampa. And that's where the game changed. New techniques, new medications, immunotherapies, things started coming around there, and that's where we saw the kids. I saw the kids every day. I saw them when I was at the first treatment center. Got to know the parents, and you know, and unfortunately, some of those kids didn't get out of there, and it was real tough. I couldn't believe, you know, if I hadn't have been processed to go through this, you just can't believe how many kids and children are suffering with this. And then, you know, of course, I analyze everything. Being a fisherman, I thought about the parents, the moms sitting there with their kids. You know, where's their dad? I know he's out working, if there was a dad somewhere. It snowballed into this thing that I said, it's just incredible. And they keep coming. It's just the rooms are full, and I just couldn't believe it. So long story short, we ended up going to a funeral, and the casket was literally the size of one of my tackle bags. And I said, that's it. I'm done. I'll fight the devil himself, but we're going to do something about this. And I told Tammy, my wife, I said, we're going to donate $10,000 and we're going to help them. We're going to help. Well, I got to thinking about it. You know, $10,000 is literally, they won't even know it. It won't even move the needle. I said, so we got to do something, and I'm not going to ride a bike around the country. I'm not one of those health freaks. We thought about taking an airplane and flying a single engine airplane to Europe, trying to stretch the fuel, most likely have to ditch in the ocean. And then we got to thinking about using my strength as a race boat driver when I was young. I drove race boats and big boats and offshore boats, and I said, I need to incorporate my profession into something and make this easy. And the Great Loop came up, and that was it. That's how it started.
That's incredible.
I love that. That's so full circle about how somebody can use, you know, what's God's given them and their situation to be able to go give back to others. And I just love that. That's absolutely amazing. So were there any life experiences that shaped your love for boating, or what kind of got you into boating?
Yeah, so my father, I'm adopted. My father, I was adopted to my grandfather. It can get real confusing. So my grandfather adopted me when I was 2 years old, and he was a hardcore charter captain. He fished seasonal stuff. It was always fishy smelling around the house, and nets and boats, and so, you know, I just kind of fell into it. I went with him on every excursion. He would snatch me out of school and take me with him, and he was one of those good dads. He wanted me with him and taught me the trade, and it was just it was second nature for me. It was in my blood. So being in a boat, and then I became a race boat driver and did that at a professional level. And I just kind of thought that if I could get something going with a boat, that nobody could ever beat me at it, you know, or I'd be a top competitor there. And that's kind of how it fell together.
So 19 days, you have to sleep, eat, everything in this boat. How did you prepare for this? Tell us a little bit about the boat and how you prepared for this very crazy excursion.
So I called Ross Topol. He's the CEO of Canyon Bay Boats, and I reluctantly called him and asked him I said, Ross, I need a boat, and here's my plan. And I told him, and it took him about 5 minutes. I wanted him to give us a boat at cost. 5 minutes later, he said, we're going to donate the boat. We're going to make this happen for you. And I about fell out of the truck, of course. So anyway, it started there. We prepared our sleeping arrangements. We had these little cots that would, you know, like a lawn chair that would fold out and a little cot on it. And we measured them up and modified them to stay on the boat. And I knew it was going to be long days, short nights, a couple hours of sleep. You can sleep anywhere when you get tired enough. So meanwhile, I was dealing with a reoccurrence right before we took off. And a spot on my back showed up where they'd done radiation, and it was becoming very painful, and the surgeons wanted to go in immediately, and I held them off. I said, give me 30 days. I got to go do this, and when I get back, we'll get started on it. So 9 surgeries since July, and I'm done now. So they had to get all the radiation out and reconstruct. So, but you know, the reason I don't want to jump ahead of myself here, but the reason that raising awareness and funds, to me, it's more about the money, because that's what carries the load. Is that those toxic treatments that these kids get, it comes back later.
Right.
And the exact same, exact same things happened to me. I mean, I'm dealing with it right now. You know, it come back 7 years later and bit me. And there's got to be a better way for these kids. So, but
Absolutely.
anyway, it was
Absolutely.
long days, short nights, running at night, night vision. It was a lot to do.
Wow. All with dealing, I'm sure you were uncomfortable too, having back pain. So you are a very inspirational, strong willed, maybe I'll use the word stubborn man, Captain Red.
Stubborn is it? Yeah, yeah, stubborn. That is it. I
We
am that.
appreciate that about you.
Absolutely. So, what was the most memorable moment of the adventure for you?
You know, it's definitely going to be when we got into upstate New York, and at our first lock of about 80 that you got to clear, and it's a huge planning deal. So we get to the locks and they're broken. And I saw the boats backed up at this little city marina, a real quaint town. We come pulling up there with the boats wrapped with the Great Loop Challenge, National Pediatric Cancer Foundation. It's a very renowned boat now, and iconic, if you will. We come pulling in there, and there must have been 200 people standing there waiting on this lock to be repaired, and they erupted. They couldn't believe that it was us. They flagged us over, and we hung out on a big boat for 2 hours. I actually went up and helped them fix the lock. And because I just had this need, I got to go. You know, we got to get this lock going. And so, I mean, even the chief of police come down to meet us, and I knew right then. I said, you know what? This social media stuff, this stuff's real.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yes.
yes.
And everybody knew everything about me. They knew everything about Dr. Bailey, who's a veterinarian that was riding with me. These people knew everything. It was incredible. And I knew right then, I said, you know what? We're going to get this $1,000,000. We're going to get it. And it just went uphill from there as we went through the Great Lakes and all.
Wow. What
Yeah,
about
incredible.
other than a lock, which can you explain, because I actually had to Google it when it happened to you, what a lock is when you're talking about these locks and how they got stuck? I had to watch a video so I could understand exactly what you
Yeah.
were talking about.
Yeah, so the lock system, it was built in the 30s. In the mid to late 30s up through there. So what they do, you know, obviously as you're going north, you're kind of going uphill, and
Right.
water tends to not like that very much. So it would, you know, inevitably it would run dry. So they build these lock systems. They're usually about 300 foot wide, 1,000 foot long, and they have gates on either end of them. And they'll pump the water up to the level you're going. I mean, the level you're at. You drive in the locks, they'll close the doors behind you and then pump it up to where you're going. And then they'll open them other doors and away you go. And do they leak a little bit? Oh, yeah. Yeah, they got leaks in them and you see the water spraying, but not enough to overcome the locks. And you kind of step uphill going north, and then when you head south, you start going downhill. So it's a really cool system. And they've been
Well,
there a long time.
my little cancer warrior and I watched the videos and followed your journey. So when I was trying to explain to her what the locks are for our listeners, I said it's kind of like a boat elevator. It's like you drive into an elevator, but it uses water.
It's exactly what it is. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
other than
Exactly.
the issue you had, obviously, with the locks, were there any other especially challenging stretches, difficulties, terrible weather, anything like that along the way?
Yeah, so we get into Lake Erie, and it's about 30 minutes before dark. We finally get out of this 300-mile idle zone through the Erie Canal, and our goal and demands were we obey every speed zone, every wake zone. We're not coming through your town like a rocket. We're going to follow all the rules, but we're going to be underway making way 20 hours a day, at least 20, sometimes 22 hours a day. And when we got out of that long idle system, it took 4 days, we were able to get on a plane and turn it loose. Lake Erie was a little upset. It was rough and didn't like us being there. So we run 100 miles, 150 miles that night, crossing Lake Erie in the dark of the night, and it was rough. You probably saw some of the videos. It was bad news bear. We would go over 3 and go through 1 wave. So we were wringing wet. Our tents were wet. It was cold. So it just, it was a very memorable, humbling trip crossing that big lake.
I bet.
So did you have a crew traveling with you, or how many people were on the boat?
I had two friends with me. Scott Swordfeger, he's a retired businessman from my hometown, and Dr. Michael Bailey, who is a veterinarian from my hometown. And we rode together. Those guys were handling the lines and stuff in the lock system to tie off to the buoys and so forth. And Mike was real good with navigation. And I wore primarily the night vision myself when I was running, and Mike would run the radar on the boat, to avoid collisions at night. I mean, we're running in black dark. You couldn't even see the bow of the boat in some cases. And I had a really good set of night vision equipment, and it was pretty impressive. I can see you wherever you're.
Terrifying.
Yeah, I can see you wherever you're at wearing those things. So
that's cool. Now, how did this challenge change you personally or give you a new perspective?
My original intentions was, and I told Chris and those folks at National Pediatric Cancer, I said, look, I'm good for a year. I'm going to give you a year, and I'm going to go do this. I'm not going to let go of it. Our original plan was to do the Great Loop during the COVID, before COVID hit, and they shut us down. I wouldn't give up. Got threatened to be put in jail by the Canadian government, and this has been a long, long plan. Well, since I've been back, I realized that I'm in love with this, and it's actually one of my hobbies now. So I'm not going to quit. I can't quit. My heart won't let me do it, and it's the love of the game. And I'm still raising money. I have an event tomorrow in St. Pete at the Yacht Club, and just raised $15,000 2 weeks ago at a golf event, and we're booking fundraisers, and we have our videos, and I pull the boat to them, and I'm just not going to give up.
That's awesome.
When we hit,
so cool.
we hit that $1 million mark, we're going to go for 2 million. So, and then 3 and 4 and so on. So looks like I'm in it.
So how close are you?
Right now we're about 500,000.
Okay.
For the trip.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's very substantial for just a one-man band. And and it comes from social media, the community, all the people. I just could go on forever. All the people standing on the banks of the locks that drove. I got one guy drove 3 hours, was tracking us, and he cut across the country trying to get ahead of us. And lo and behold, he pulls into this marina and runs out on the dock with his cameras, trying to take a picture of us as we went by, and we were pulling in there for fuel. And got him, and I said, well, heck, let's go for a boat ride. And we took him for a boat ride. So he was ecstatic. But he drove from Canada to get ahead of us. And he made donations. All those people were making the 43 kids, for those of you that don't know, I know you girls know, but there's 43 kids a day going to get diagnosed with some form of cancer. And it's going to happen every day. I don't know how
Yeah.
many kids get to check out every day and go home cancer free, but it keeps the lab full. The lab's always full, and they need money. And this is something that we can do. We can do this together. And if you donate $43, all you have to do. Everybody donates $43. We'll get there. It'll
That's
change the
right.
way the game's played.
Absolutely. So what made you choose the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation as your charity of choice for this adventure?
Oh boy, this one's an easy one. So I put together a board of directors for the Great Loop. I have a banking executive, a owner of a CPA firm, and a owner of an attorney firm. I put together 5 guys, a guy that owns pizza chains, established business people for a board of directors, and we pulled a bunch of them and interviewed a bunch of people. They would come to our town. We'd sit them down in the boardroom and interview them, ask them, where's the money go? How many employees do you have? How much does your CEO make? I'm real big on that. I want to know how much the guy makes. If he's driving around, if he's making $900,000 a year driving around in a Bugatti and wearing Rolex watches. I'm not real big on that. I understand that everybody has to make a living, but that's how we did it. We interviewed a lot of people, and that my dad always told me the cream rises to the top. It don't matter what you're doing. And National Pediatric Cancer Foundation was on the top, and they kept landing on top. And I said, it's a no-brainer. That's who we're going with. It's a no-brainer. They're the best by far in the business. They're not as big as they sound. It sounds like this giant entity, but you walk in there in a nice office and you see everybody that's employed right there. They're in that office.
Yeah.
And the money goes to the right place. I believe at the last call was 89 cents of every dollar goes to the kids. It don't
Correct.
get any
It's your
better.
research.
It don't get any better than that. So that's how we did it.
Absolutely. Well, part of our rationale for bringing you on today, number one, we just think you're incredible and your story is just amazing and fun to listen to. But also we want people to know that they can fundraise in any way, shape, or form. And it doesn't have to be quite as big as Captain Red. You don't have to go 6,000 plus miles on a crazy boat journey overnight, but anything that you're passionate about, if you have a hobby or something that your family likes to do together, you can turn it into fundraising and raising funds for these kids. And we need more research. We need more research dollars. There's always these incredibly smart doctors out there who have these amazing ideas, and they're always looking for funding so that they can make them happen. So that was our whole idea today. We wanted people to know that, they can do what Captain Red did, even if it's not a crazy journey across the entire ocean. But how did you, Captain Red, incorporate raising awareness and funds for NPCF? So we know we've talked about people can go and just donate $43, but how did you bring in the money? How was that? What does that look like for you?
Okay, so we have the Great Loop Challenge. You can people can Google that up. We have a web page there. It has a donate buttons. We actually have the boat up for auction right now, and that money's going in the pot too for the kids. And the auction ends January 19th, which is coming up real soon.
Coming up.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a leading bid on it right now. I think it's at 150,000, and I expect that to climb on up a little bit by the end of it. So, a little bit of everything. I've raised as little as I had a kid give me $1 bill. $1.
So sweet.
His mom drove to my house and he gave me $1.
Oh.
And I put it in the mail and sent it right to Chris. I've had people donate, walk up and hand me 10,000.
Wow.
have one company come up and give us a check for $20,000. It's not the amount of money in my mind. It's everybody does a little bit, and it obviously goes a long ways. $43 a day. Let me tell you something. If we can get $43 from 1,000 people, think about that just a minute.
Right. I think I read a statistic that our country spends more money on like Starbucks coffee in 3 days than like the government spends on cancer research in a year. And I was like, wow, think about that. People can go out there and spend, what is it, like $7, $8 on a Starbucks coffee now? I don't even know. But, you know, you have that same amount of people put that towards pediatric cancer research, and we could be funding 7 more trials. So
Absolutely. And I don't believe, I've heard this. I think we've all heard it at one time or the other, where somebody says, oh, they know how to cure cancer. They can do it right now. They don't want to because it costs too much money. Well, I'm going to debunk that, because as we all, as us three know, I've talked to many doctors and oncologists, and I'm kind of getting in with them now and learning what all's involved in this. It's a never-ending change in the cancer world. You get this one, prostate cancer used to kill everybody. Now they got it dialed in.
Right.
Well, guess what? There's something new now. There's something new. There's always something new. It's a constant chase. But I don't buy into that program for 1 minute. These guys these doctors that I talk to are doing everything they can do. And I even had one oncologist that stuck in my heart. I said, buddy, you got in the right video. Anyway, so there's no end to the cancer treatments. It's just, they need the money. They need our help. And if you can do a lemonade stand and raise $4, it helps. I'm here to tell you.
absolutely.
So we talked a little bit about it whenever you were talking about when you got into New York, but what kind of other responses did you see from the communities whenever you were doing the challenge?
Okay. We, every stop we made, every stop, we'd pull into marinas, and one was, SK's Marina in, upstate New York. We come by there, and they were having all the loopers that they call, that do the loop with their families and big boats. There must have been 50 of them there at that marina. We pulled in to get fuel. And the lady that owns the marina come running down to the dock screaming. She was tracking us on the phone. Couldn't believe we stopped at their marina to get fuel. We put, it was right at $500 worth of fuel in the boat. And from the excessive spray and water and waves coming over the boat and hitting us, we had lost our radio communications on the boat. And I had to go inside and buy a handheld radio so I could communicate with the lockmasters on it. And, radio's $200, easy. So I said, I'll go in there and get a radio. Y'all top it off with fuel. They had dinner, they had sandwiches brought in for us while we were fueling and spraying the boat out and trying to dry our gear out when we got out of Erie. And wouldn't let us pay for nothing.
Oh,
Let us pay for
Wow.
anything. And that, there's a $700 donation that went to the kids right there on that spot. So
Right.
that happened a couple of times, but that was very substantial at that marina, and I'll never forget it. It was really incredible. Would not let us pay for a thing there.
Wow.
So that's a quick $700 donation that we didn't have to pay for. Pretty cool.
love it.
I wish I never had to be a part of this community in some ways, but I will say, being a part of the pediatric cancer community, I have met some of the most incredible people who have some of the biggest hearts.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. The way I feel about it, because I thought, like I said, I thought in the beginning that, I'll do this for a little while and do my fair share, and then get out and go on about my life, but I'm not leaving. Too many cool people. It's too fun, and I actually, I'm chomping at the bit to get to Tampa tomorrow to do this fundraiser. We're fired up about it. I'm fired up about every one of them, and um, we got some exciting news for down the road um, coming up, but we'll be letting out here before long too. So it looks like I'm in it for life.
I love it.
That's awesome. Well, you've shared a couple beautiful memories, but is there a moment or a meaningful story related to work with NPCF that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I got to go to one of the, I think it's the Florida Sunshine meeting.
The Sunshine Project.
The Sunshine Project. I went to one of those last year. A nervous wreck. So I'm a nervous wreck. They had me coming up to speak, and I've never really done that before, and had the coat and tie on, which I was extremely uncomfortable in. And I had Judge Clayton, one of my best friends. He's a chief circuit judge from Volusia County in Florida, drove me down there, and he said, "You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. You're going to." I said, "Yeah, well, you're not the one having to walk up there." So anyhow, while I was there, I got to meet some of the kids, and even more so, the parents. It was unbelievable. When I was talking to this little girl, she's in one of the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation videos. She had a brain tumor, which is under control. It gave her some distortion on the side of her face, a side effect. But when her daughter was undergoing treatment, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, the mother. And that hit it out of the park. That I think that's the one that did it right there. I got up and owned the place, and went back and sat down with Jim. We got up, we went home, and I told him on the way home, I said, "We're going to do something. Let me tell you what, I am in this thing to win it." That was a lot.
Let me say, Tiffany and I were there in the audience, and you did not look nervous at all. You owned that place, and your story and talking about the Great Loop was fabulous. And those research summits, that's where you were at, is the Sunshine Project Research Summit. And for those who are listening who don't know, it is a beautiful experience. We've got it coming up again in February. And basically hundreds of oncologists and researchers come together, and they sit in a room and they talk about what's working and what's not. And they have guests like Captain Red telling stories at the dinner that night to kind of just tie it all together and talk about the work that we're doing. And you did a beautiful job, Captain Red. That's how I first learned about your story, and it was incredible.
But I was a nervous wreck.
We were there in the audience with the hundreds of others, and you did fabulous.
Well, thank you.
That's awesome. So let's see here.
So what is a common misconception about the Great Loop? So, like I'm not a boater, so I'd never heard of this until you started this journey. So what's something that people may not know?
Okay, that's a good question. One of the, I'll tell you what's probably one of the biggest ones is the lock system. So, there's 80 plus locks you have to go through up and down when you're going around it. And when I was doing my research on it, which was minimal, I'll tell you, I never really was big on doing homework in school. So somehow I beat my way through it. I wasn't this star student, but, and the same goes with my flight planning or the boat planning. I look at it. I got the Garmin equipment in the boat, the Garmin Active Captain. It's very helpful, and I kind of lean on the the electronics and stuff quite a bit. But I did research the locks, and it was like, oh my gosh, it's this freak show about people are, you won't get through this one. You got to do this. The lock masters hold you up, and it was a piece of cake going through them things. And the key to it is, the key to going through those locks, and I found out after about lock number 10, is to have the phone numbers ahead of time. Call the lock master, let him know you're coming. And the second thing is update him on the radio when you get close, within about a mile. Call him and tell him you have him in sight. And those lock masters will open the gates and get you through there. And if you happen to rendezvous with a 1,000-foot ship, tanker ship that's going through there, well, he's going to get priority. And it might take you 2.5 hours to get through it versus 30 minutes. It takes 30 minutes to go through each one of them.
Oh, so, wow.
But other than that, don't be afraid of the locks. They're a piece of cake, and those lock masters they're really good at what they do.
What did you learn about resilience and overcoming obstacles? Because we know that you clearly faced several of them on this very extensive journey.
Yeah, so I think that, I learned a lot about my confidence. I stayed within my confidence level, and that comes from being a pilot for 40 years. I didn't go outside. If I ever had to make a decision, and one I did have to make at night, we were navigating the Mississippi River, and there were trees floating down it, boats had broke loose, it was flooding, and they were getting ready to shut the Mississippi down, and we had to get through it that night, or we're going to be stopped. We're done. Have to get a trailer to come get us, and game over, and try it again another day. I said, we're going tonight, but here's the problem. There's trees in it. There's stuff. We got night vision. We got the radar, and I had Mike stay on the radar. And I stayed with the night vision and took the risk out of it. The risk was minimal. And we went through there and was able to work our way around all the debris and garbage. And it was it was like a flooded dump, if you would. Everything was floating, and and it's midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. We're the only ones out there, and everybody else is asleep. It's tracking us, so kind of by yourself in the middle of nowhere. But I did learn that I was there. I had the right amount of confidence and ability to navigate that boat through the right stuff.
It sounds like it's a lot of mental preparation too. Physically there's a lot to it, but mentally you have to really just be determined and be in the moment and try not to let the anxiety and fear take over.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you one. When you anchor up at night, when there's these ships coming through these narrow canals and you're off to the side and you anchor up, I never did really sleep good because I was afraid the boat would break loose and drift out and get run over by a ship. So after about the second night of that, I made sure that I could pull up to the bank somewhere and get the anchor, more secured. That way you could get 2 hours sleep and get up and get moving. But you really got to be on your game because it's bad news out there. It really is bad news. The night vision that was a game changer for us. I mean, it get dark and we turn the night vision on, and it's literally like driving in the daylight.
That's cool.
That is cool. A lot of what you went through, I feel like cancer parents can relate to. Obviously not the same situation whatsoever, but that feeling of trying not to let fear, anxiety take over, that feeling of, okay, we just got to get through this next obstacle one thing at a time. That's a lot of what we went through as cancer parents. It's you don't know what's coming next. You don't know if something's going to break loose. You don't know what kind of obstacles are going to be thrown at you. So in a way, you kind of got a taste of what these families are going through, and you've already been through a lot yourself, so but I think that's probably why mentally you were able to overcome this, because you've done a lot and you've been through a lot, and you're obviously a very strong person for it and very stubborn.
Stubborn, yeah, and I'm also hard-headed too. I've heard that one.
I think that's a good trait, personally.
Same.
Too. Yeah, it's amazing. Both of you being having children that's been through this right here is, it's the same moms that I would see every day sitting there with their babies, and of course I'd go home to everything's perfect. I'd get out of the truck, go home, and everybody in the family's good, and I'd lay in bed at night, couldn't quit thinking about it, how bad it is out there. So, and all it takes, like everything else in this world, all it takes is a little bit of money. It don't take a lot. $43, 1,000, 2,000 people, $43, and it'll change the life of somebody.
Right.
It certainly will.
I think sometimes even more meaningful donations are people that don't have $5 to give you, but they give it to you anyway. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of, even if you don't have $43, if you don't have anything, but you feel in your heart that you should give it to one of these organizations, just know that your money is going towards something that is substantial and it is meaningful. And $1 or $43 or $4,300, all of it makes a difference.
Absolutely.
It certainly does. It don't matter the amount. It really doesn't. It's pretty incredible. But we've done a lot of footwork, and I'm really excited about the future coming up. We're working on a project right now, and if we can get this thing to stick, which I think it will, we're getting pretty good at it now. We're going to have a new little project coming up this year.
Oh, and that's what I was just about to ask you. Is it a secret project?
Well, right now I don't want to really let it out because it could fall through. But
okay.
There's a company that feels the need that they want the world record on the Great Loop. And I just happen to be the guy that can get it for them. And beat your own record. There's nothing any better than that, right? So
absolutely.
But the negotiation part of it that we're in right now is what they're going to do.
Okay.
And I've requested them to help us raise $500,000 for the Great Loop Challenge, which indeed, goes straight through us into National Pediatric Cancer Foundation for research. And they're a giant company, and they have the marketing horsepower to do it. So looks like we may have a contract on the table within a couple of weeks. So
awesome.
All right. Well, we won't push you and ask you exactly what it is, but we'll next time, once it's all worked out, we'll have you back on the podcast to talk about part 2.
Yeah. It'll be Great Loop 2.0.
2.0.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you hope that your journey inspires others, whether in boating or supporting the pediatric cancer community?
I hope that it inspires people to, number one, think about it. Just think about this. Number two, if you get a chance to, if you're a good golfer, which I don't golf, but if raise a few bucks and send it to them. It's easy to do. Find something you're really, really good at, and that's how professionals excel. They stay in their lane, and raise some money for these kids, because the government, they're not getting enough money from the government. Number one, the mothers and fathers of the kid, they got a place. They need places to stay. This is a whole realm of stuff. I don't want to get off track here, but I always imagine a little kid being diagnosed, and the parents are less fortunate than most of us are, so they can barely even afford to drive to the hospital, let alone go out of state where they need to be. So that's the kind of stuff I think about while I'm driving every single day of my life. It's embedded in me. And we've raised awareness. Our awareness count is literally over 5 million. since the Great Loop Challenge started, and it may be upwards of 8 million now. So there's people are learning about this.
Well, and honestly, that's just as important in some ways. Tiffany and I say this all the time. We know that everybody in the country wears pink ribbons and knows that October is breast cancer awareness, and they've done a really good job in the breast cancer world of raising that awareness, and that awareness has equated to more funding. In the pediatric cancer world, we're still a little behind, and that's part of why we're doing this. It's part of why we do everything we do. Because, I don't think people realize, like you said, just how many kids are affected by this every day. And that awareness, I want everybody to know that September is Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month. I want everybody to recognize that kids get cancer too.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. They sure do. Yep. And it's a shame.
Yeah. Terrible. So where can listeners follow your story and get involved? Tell everybody where they can go to check you out, check out all of the good things that you're doing for our community.
Well, thank you. You can actually just Google up the Great Loop Challenge, and it'll take you to the web page. There's a donate button on there. Of course, the boat auction thing's on there. You can click on that and look at the boat. But there's tons of videos on Google you can go to and see some of the videos that we did, live shot videos, and some of the ups and downs of the trip. Sometimes even established charter captains literally run out of gas. That happens every now and then. But you'll get to see a video where that happened to us and how we resolved the problem. And anyway, even the best in the business make a mistake every now and then.
Well, Tiffany and I will make sure that we post those links to our podcast so that all of our listeners can go and check you out and see how they can support you and get involved, because it really is really fun just watching your journey and following along. Me and my little warrior were watching the videos, and that's how we learned about the boat elevators. So
yeah, cool. And that tracker was pretty, wasn't
it? It was. So yeah, thank you so much, Tiffany.
Thank you all very much for having us on.
Well, we hope that this has been enlightening for everybody, and we want to just thank you again for being on here. If you want to get involved to help fundraise, please feel free to contact us. You can go to nationalpcf.org. You can go to goldribbon-kids.org and find out how you can be more involved. I'll link our email addresses in the show notes, and we thank you so much for listening to another episode of An Unexpected Fight. Please keep fighting the good fight. Help us bring these kids more up-to-date treatments, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.